Welcome to the channel Fate's Tapestry. Support the channel, like and subscribe so you never miss a new story. The doctor's words echoed in the sterile silence of his office, each one a hammer blow against the fragile glass of my future. 6 months, maybe a year, he had said, his voice laced with a practiced, gentle pity that only made it worse. I walked out of that clinic not with a sense of dread, but with a strange, chilling clarity. For 72 years, I had lived a life of careful steps and quiet compromises. A good wife to my late husband, Robert. A devoted mother to my children, a pillar of our small community. But as the autumn sun cast long shadows on the pavement, I realized my entire respectable life was built on a single, unforgivable act I committed 50 years ago. And now, time had run out. There was only one debt left to pay, one ghost to confront. I had to find him. I had to find James. My hands trembled as I pulled an old, dusty shoebox from the back of my wardrobe. Inside, nestled amongst dried corsages and faded photographs, was a stack of letters tied with a blue ribbon. His letters. James. Just seeing his elegant, looping handwriting sent a jolt through my heart. A phantom pain that time had dulled but never erased. We were 17, inseparable, and our love felt as vast and eternal as the summer sky. He was a dreamer, a poet, with eyes that saw magic in the mundane. He painted pictures with words and promised me a world filled with art, passion, and adventure. I was his muse, his North Star, and I betrayed him in the worst way imaginable. My family, you see, never approved. They saw James as a penniless romantic with no prospects. Robert, on the other hand, was the sensible choice. Steady, reliable, with a clear path to success in his father's business. My parents orchestrated our courtship with relentless precision. "He'll give you a stable life, Eleanor," my mother would say, her voice firm. "Love is a fleeting fancy. Security is forever." And I, a weak-willed girl terrified of disappointing everyone, slowly began to believe her. The pressure was immense, a constant, suffocating weight. Robert was kind in his own reserved way, but his presence felt like a gray fog compared to James's brilliant sunshine. Yet the fear of defying my parents, of being cast out, was stronger than my love. So I made my choice. The last time I saw James was by the old oak tree on Miller's Hill. I told him I had accepted Robert's proposal. The disbelief in his eyes, the way his smile faltered and crumbled, it has haunted my dreams for 50 years. "But you love me," he whispered, his voice cracking. "We had plans." And that's when I delivered the final, cruelest blow, to make the break clean, to force him to hate me. I lied. I told him our love was a mistake, a childish game. I said I needed a real man, not a boy who lived in a world of poems and fantasies. Every word was a dagger, twisting in my own heart as much as his. He didn't argue. He just looked at me, a long, searching look, and then he turned and walked away. He left town the next week, and no one ever heard from him again. And I, Eleanor, the sensible one, buried my heart under that oak tree and married Robert. But now, standing in my sunlit bedroom with a death sentence hanging over me, I knew my greatest sin wasn't just breaking his heart. It was what I did next, an act of pure, cowardly malice to ensure he would never, ever come back.
After I told James those terrible things, a wicked fear took root in my soul. What if he wrote to me? What if he tried to change my mind? I couldn't bear the thought of his words chipping away at my resolve, so I did something truly despicable. For months, I watched the mail like a hawk. The day his first letter arrived, my heart hammered against my ribs. I recognized his handwriting instantly. With shaking hands, I steamed it open. It was a desperate, beautiful plea, full of shared memories and declarations of undying love. He didn't believe my cruel words. He was sure my parents had forced me into this. Reading it felt like swallowing broken glass. But I didn't reply. Instead, I burned it. And when the second letter came a few weeks later, I burned that one too. And the third. And the fourth. He sent 6 letters in total. 6 cries from his heart that I silenced with fire and ash. That was the secret I carried, the true weight of my betrayal. He thought I didn't care. He thought I forgot him. But I made him believe that. Finding him after 50 years felt like an impossible task. The internet was a bewildering maze, and I was hardly an expert. My granddaughter, Sarah, a clever girl with a kind heart, offered to help. "Who are we looking for, Grandma?" she asked, her fingers poised over her laptop. I couldn't bring myself to tell her the whole truth. "An old friend," I mumbled, "from before your grandfather. His name is James Covington." We had so little to go on. His name, his approximate age, and the name of the town he'd moved to all those years ago. Sarah typed and clicked, her brow furrowed in concentration. We found a few false leads, men with the same name, but the wrong age or history. Hours turned into days. Hope began to curdle into despair. Maybe this was my punishment, to die with this guilt locked inside me? Robert had given me a comfortable life, it was true. Our home was beautiful, our children successful, but it was a life painted in shades of beige. There were moments late at night when I'd lie awake and wonder what my life would have been with James. Would it have been a chaotic riot of color? Would we have struggled? Probably. But would I have felt truly alive? Absolutely. Then, one evening, Sarah's gasp cut through the quiet of the living room. "Grandma, I think I found something." She turned the laptop toward me. On the screen was an article from a small local newspaper from a city 3 states away. The headline read, "Local artist James Covington donates mural to Children's Hospital." And there was a picture. His hair was silver now, and his face was etched with the fine lines of time. But his eyes, oh, those eyes were the same. They still held that spark of a dreamer, that gentle intensity that I had fallen in love with. He was an artist, a successful one, it seemed. He had made his dreams come true, all without me. A wave of relief so powerful it made me dizzy wash over me, followed swiftly by a cold spike of fear. The article mentioned the gallery that represented him. I had a way to contact him. Now there were no more excuses. My hand hovered over the phone, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm. What would I even say? And more importantly, what if, after all this, he refused to even speak to me? But then I found something else in the article, a small detail in his biography that made my blood run cold. It mentioned he was a widower, and the name of his late wife was my sister's. My sister, Clara, my younger, prettier, more adventurous sister, the one who had always looked at James with a little too much admiration. The one who had moved away a year after I was married, claiming she needed a fresh start. The pieces of the puzzle clicked into place with a horrifying, sickening finality. My betrayal was deeper than I could have ever imagined. Did she know? Did she pursue him, knowing how I'd broken his heart? Or was it all a terrible coincidence? Clara had passed away 5 years ago from a sudden illness, taking any answers she might have had with her. The thought that my own sister had built her happiness on the ruins of mine was a new, fresh hell. But it didn't change what I had to do. If anything, it made it more urgent. I needed to know the truth from him. I wrote a letter, a simple, honest letter. I didn't offer excuses for what I had done. I simply told him that I was dying, and that my last wish was to see him, to apologize for the cruelty of a scared young girl 50 years ago.
I sent it to his gallery with no real hope that he would even receive it, let alone reply. For 2 weeks, the silence was deafening. Every phone call, every car that slowed on our street sent my heart leaping into my throat. I began to accept it. He had moved on. He had lived a full life. Why would he want to drudge up the past for a woman who had caused him so much pain? Then, one afternoon, the phone rang. An unknown number. I answered with a trembling hand. Eleanor? The voice was deeper, gravelly with age, but I knew it in an instant. It was him. It was James. We met in a small, quiet park halfway between our cities. When I saw him walking towards me, leaning slightly on a cane, my breath caught in my chest. He looked older, yes, but he carried himself with a quiet dignity. The dreamer was still there. We sat on a bench, the silence stretching between us, filled with the ghosts of 50 years. Finally, I found my voice. I told him everything about my parents' pressure, about my cowardice, and for the first time, I confessed my most terrible secret, burning his letters. As I spoke, tears streamed down my face, washing away decades of guilt. He listened patiently, his expression unreadable. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. Then he sighed, a deep, heavy sound. "I always knew," he said softly. "I knew your parents were behind it, but the letters, I thought you just didn't care enough to even read them. That's what hurt the most." Then he told me about Clara. She had found him years later. She told him I had been happy and that he should move on. They found solace in each other's company, a gentle, quiet love. She was a good woman, Eleanor. She loved me, but she wasn't you. And then he reached into his wallet and pulled out a worn, folded piece of paper. It was a poem, one he had written for me when we were 17. He'd kept it all these years. "You were my sunshine, Eleanor. You just forgot to shine." In that moment, there was no bitterness, no anger, only a profound, shared sadness for the life we never had. He had forgiven me long before I ever asked. My final months were not spent in a hospital bed, but in quiet companionship. James would call every day. We talked for hours, filling in the 50-year gap, not as lost lovers, but as old friends making peace with the past. My journey was ending, but for the first time in my life, my heart was light. My last promise to myself was fulfilled, and I learned the most important lesson. A life built on fear is no life at all. It is only in facing our deepest regrets that we can truly find peace.